Well, morena, good morning, everybody. Kia ora tātou. Welcome back. I'll just call the meeting to order. Before we open with some comments, could I invite you, Dale Marie, to open us with a karakia? Please.
Tēnā koe te marikura, tēnā koutou i te whare. I hui hui mai nei i tēnei tau, hau o te Pākehā. E karakia tātou. Tākiri mai te ata, ura te ata, kāke te ata, uru mai te ao. Uru mai te ao te tangata, ki ana rerenga, ki tōna kaua. Tēnei te ao, heo mārama, i rungo whakairia, hui e, tai ki e. He mihi kā tika ki tō tātou kuini, nā wai hono i te pō, me te whare kāhui ari ki rire hau, pai mārire. Ki te hunga mate, e tari ana. E Judy, ngā whaia, e kua wehe ki te pō, e moi kōrua i tō moi Mārie, koutou rā kua mate i tēnei wā, i te rā marae, i tēnei mārama, i tēnei tau. Ki te hunga ora, tēnā tātou, o aku hoa, aku hāpuri, nā kaimahi o te kaunihira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora, thank you, Dale Marie. Thank you so much for that. Well, welcome back, everybody. It's lovely to see you all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Some are very tanned, others of us are not so. Look, it's obviously our first official council meeting for 2025, although a number of us have obviously been back having meetings and so on and so forth for the last couple of weeks, in particular staff, of course. Lovely to see you all here and members of the public and people online. Welcome back to Waipa District Council for 2025. Look, I trust everybody's suitably rested and refreshed. We obviously have a very busy year ahead of ourselves and quite frankly, some of the pithiest and most impactful issues that any of us are ever likely to face in local government. So look, I call on you all to stay your course, remain focused on finding the best outcomes for our communities and across the breadth and depth of our district. So let's start the year out as we mean to go on with respectful, robust and considered discussion. Let us be open, curious and brave, dovetailing in on our comments at the end of last year. However, before I go any further, I do wish to acknowledge the recent passing of two very respected members of our Waipa whānau, Koramatua Harold Maniapoto and the former Waipa councillor Judy Bannon. A number of us attended both Tangi and Judy's funeral. It was wonderful to have Waipa take such a leading role in both of those, or have such a commanding presence in both of those acknowledgements of their great lives. So can I invite us all just to stand and bow our heads for a moment's silence in remembrance of them both. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for acknowledging those two special people. So without any further ado, let's crack into our agenda. It is a very large one today, 2,995 pages. A large number of which of those pages were provided to us over the Christmas period for our reading and absorption. So let's crack into it. Apologies, I did have Mike Pettit, but I see he's here today. That's wonderful to see you, Mike. School obviously kicked off yesterday. Did my first school lunch for the year today, so no doubt there are plenty of people doing the same across the district this morning. Disclosure of any members' interests. Are there any? I'm not aware of there being any. Nope. Late items. Now this is a matter which you'll be aware we need to address at this point. So under our standing orders and the Lagoima legislation, council can deal with an item that's not on the agenda if it's approved by resolution, as you're all aware. The reasons for that have to be explained as to why it wasn't on the agenda and that the matter cannot be delayed into a later meeting. So I've a little bit of an explanation here, which I'm sure will not be news to any of you, given communications given to you about this. But this agenda includes essentially the report on the 2534 long-term plan draft consultation document and supporting documents for auditing. Approval is sought to include the draft consultation document as Appendix 1 to that report. This item, as you're aware, was not available at the time the agenda was issued due to a timing technicality. And this isn't expected in a normal part of an LTP document. And this item must be considered at this meeting because the approval of the draft consultation plan for audit can't be delayed. You'll be aware of our pretty tight timeframes, so it can't be delayed into the next council meeting, as the audit of the 2534 LTP will commence on the 3rd of February. And that's before our next available council meeting. So that pretty succinctly sets out the grounds for the late item. There is a resolution appearing on the screen behind me and the one in front of me, setting out that council approves the draft LTP consultation document, providing the ECM number, to be received and considered at the council meeting of 29 January 2025 as Appendix 1 to the quote marks report on the 2025-34 long-term plan draft consultation document and supporting documents for auditing. There's no end quotes there, but we get the drift. So you're going to move that for me, Mike. Do I have a seconder? Roger. I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much for that. Next item then on the agenda is a confirmation of our order of meeting. Again, it appears in our agenda there. You will see. I don't have any difficulty with the order. You'll move and have Claire seconding that. I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Fantastic. So then the next bit is confirmation of minutes. You'll see there on page 9 of our agenda, the recommendation that the minutes held from our meeting on the 17th of December, having been circulated, are true and correct. I'm happy to move that from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Claire will second that for me. I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Great stuff. Moving on then to one of the pithiest items on our agenda, appearing starting on page 21. This is the item to be presented by Melissa and co, the long-term plan draft consultation document and supporting documents for auditing. Obviously, we have Kirsty and Lisa in support. Very large item, but I shall hand the speaking paddle over to you, Melissa. Nice to see you all back, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, thank you. Good morning. So, very significant milestone for the project today. Obviously, we've got quite a few staff here with me today in support, but I also do want to acknowledge those staff who have played a critical role who are not with me. So Anthea, Daisy, Tony, Neil, George, and Yolanda. Sorry, I thought she was going to come up with me. It's really representative of the cross-organisational collaborative effort that's gone into this piece of work. Yeah, and it is a massive piece of work, and it's been going on for over 2 years now, starting with the development of the 2434 long-term plan, pivoting to develop the enhanced annual plan, and then picking up this piece of work to develop a 9-year plan for years 25-34. But I also want to acknowledge you as elected members. This has been a massive effort on your part as well, and as Mayor Susan pointed out, today's agenda is particularly long, so we appreciate that this has been a lot of reading for you, not just today, but getting up until this point. And just thank you for your robust discussions and debate getting to this point. So the purpose of today's report is to get the documents signed off for auditing purposes. So audit will be coming in on the 3rd, so next week, to start that phase of the project. A lot of these documents should be familiar to you. So a lot of them were presented at the council meeting on the 17th of December. To supplement those, there was obviously a pack that was available for your reading over the summer break. The two additional documents that I do want to bring to your attention is, of course, the draft consultation document. So this will be the first opportunity for you to see that. That has obviously been developed on the basis of all the conversations that we've had with you to get to this point. The other one is the application to the Local Government Funding Agency for the Bespoke Covenant. With respect, sorry, just jumping back to the consultation document, and there will be other documents as well. As we go through the audit process, there are likely to be some changes to those documents. When we present those to you for formal adoption for consultation on the 19th of March, we'll just make sure that we track any changes between now and 19th of March. So just wanted to make you aware of kind of where we're at in the process. And then obviously we've got consultation and then adoption towards the end of June. So without further ado, I will hand over to Ken to talk you through the LGFA application, and then following that, we'll hear from Lisa on the draft consultation document.
Okay, yeah, good morning, Your Worship. Good morning, councillors. Yeah, look, I'm just speaking to the Bespoke Covenant application and really drawing your attention to, because I think it sort of says it all, to page, oh my goodness, it's page 2921 of the agenda. It's a very, very big agenda. Just to the conclusion at the end of the letter, because like I say, it tells the story. So look, yeah, we have developed this long-term plan, this draft long-term plan, based on a prudent, sustainable financial strategy. But look, a really key piece of building that financial strategy is a bespoke net debt to total revenue covenant of 350%. Yeah, that is critical to the financial strategy, and we have talked about that yeah for many months now. So look, essentially this is a letter. It's a, what is it? It's a 10-page letter to the LGFA seeking that bespoke covenant. The bespoke covenant was enabled by a shareholder resolution back in September. It was really a joint initiative of both the LGFA and central government. Yeah, they recognised that growth councils did have some issues in the debt headroom space, and their response was to enable the availability of a higher level of covenant to high growth councils. So yeah, so look, that is what this is about. Yeah, we should only need to avail ourselves of this higher level of covenant for a few years, because it will drop away over time, the need. So we're applying initially for the 350% to kick in actually almost immediately in terms of that. Yeah, but over the next few years, we're stepping down as our debt position improves. Okay, so yeah, so look, this letter will go, subject to your approval, which we seek today, will go off to the LGFA almost immediately, today, tomorrow. And we understand their next board meeting is the 24th of February, and they are well and truly expecting this this letter or this application to be considered there. I've kept close contact with the LGFA all the way through. They have seen some drafts of this letter, and are pretty comfortable with the approach. Now, I just need to acknowledge that that in further reading and further consideration of this letter over the last few days, a couple of very small grammatical things were picked up. So I do ask your license just to make some very minor grammatical tweaks to the letter.
Thanks, Ken. Anybody have any questions of Ken's letter in respect of the Bespoke Covenant? Roger. Microphone, Roger.
I'm out of practice, you see. That's the trouble having a break over Christmas. Go. Yeah, thanks, Ken. I certainly endorse you with this letter going. You mentioned other tier one councils, and are you aware of how many others have actually been submitted in conjunction with ours? Just gives us a kind of an indication of whether we're the only one or whether we're, a group of similarly placed councils that are going forward, and that probably heightens our degree of success.
Yeah, so look, I don't know how many other councils will apply for this. Like I say, certainly it was made available to high growth councils because there's a number of others who would have similar need. What I do know is that when I talked to the LGFA last week, they hadn't had any other applications in yet for the February meeting. They said, when I sent them this draft and said, what do you think? They said, well, that's good, and it's the first one we've seen. But look, my expectation is, and their expectation is over the next short while, there will probably be a handful of others. But look, this is not a thing that we're sort of up against the pack. And there's limited availability here. It's quite constrained anyway because it's constrained to that tight group of tier one growth councils. So they know what the maximum exposure is. It's not like we're competing with others. Ours will go up and be considered on its merits and its merits alone.
And remind me how many other growth tier one councils are?
Yeah, so you were saying six, Steph? Yeah. My understanding is it is a very small group. Yes, Steph is indicating 6. It is there or thereabouts. Yeah. I understand it. Well, certainly less than 10. It's a fairly small group. Yeah.
Most of those would be within our area, wouldn't they?
Certainly. So certainly. Some of them are. Yeah. So the likes of Hamilton City, obviously the likes of Tauranga City. I believe Waimakariri district down in Canterbury is also sort of spill over from Christchurch. That is also a high growth council. So
And Selwyn.
And Selwyn as well. Yes. Okay. Good. Yeah. So clustered around obviously high growth areas like the Golden Triangle up here and in and around Christchurch. Yeah.
Great. Bruce.
Ken, you've got it's going on page 391 said debt affordability benchmark on years 350% for years 1 to 6 and dropping back to the last 2. Can that say it changes earlier? Year 3, say. Have we got the power to change it, reduce it earlier?
Yes, we absolutely could. At any point, we could, waive the requirement. Through your worship, one of the big things there would be, obviously, depending on our waters decision, if the waters activity shifts out of council, then that will absolutely change the dynamic. And I would suggest at that point we would no longer need the higher covenant either. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. So if there's no further conversation on that, I'll hand over to Lisa to talk about the consultation document.
Morning, everybody, and welcome back. It's great to be able to present you with Te Ara Whakamua today, which is the draft consultation document for the long-term plan, translated into the path ahead. This is the fourth consultation document that I've written in my local government career, and I have to say that it's probably one of the most complex I've ever had to try and mastermind. We're a $2.6 billion business, and when you overlay that with the current financial environment, the complexities of the local government funding and financing models, the degree of change we are either experience or about to undergo, writing this document in a way that the communities will be able to engage with and easily digest with minimal effort has certainly been challenging. It has been a team effort over multiple hours, and while in its raw form, I admit that it does look very text heavy. I think with the benefit of design, we'll have a document that conveys what the community needs to know to give us informed feedback to help shape the future. Today, we're asking you to adopt the draft consultation document to go to audit, noting that the fully designed version will be coming back to you for adoption prior to consultation opening in March. Welcome your feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. It's no easy feat. You set out the complexity of that challenge quite succinctly there. So any questions for Lisa? Roger?
Yes, Lisa, I just want to say that having read the document.
Yeah. Microphone, Roger.
Oh. Yeah. Having read the document, actually having read it twice because of the revised copy that we had sent through, the words are fine, but of course, pictures tell thousands of words, and the way in which we put it together and design it will effectively, determine how successful we are in getting that message out. So I'm looking forward to getting the designed copy through and looking at that as to a communications document. But it's certainly a challenge. I agree with you. And there are many difficult questions that were asked that we have to, through that document, explain. So, yep.
Thanks, Roger.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing the version that really grabs you in terms of all the visuals and designs. Certainly tell that story a lot better, but this is what we've got for now. So Claire and then Lou and then Liz.
Lisa, I just wanted to say, wow, you've done a great job because, it is a hugely complex story that you need to tell, but I think you did it really well. The way I read it, really accessible language and, step by step, leads you to understand the feedback we're looking for from the community, so I think well done, congratulations. Wouldn't want to have that job myself, but I think you did a great job.
I appreciate that, Claire. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, I'd like to actually reflect exactly the same sentiment. I read the document twice, as Roger did, looking for trackings that went there. But what I was going to say, we're trying to sell a very difficult situation. We're living in complex times and they're not going to change. And as I say, I think most of the public are quite well aware that we have been impacted by external events that we've had no control over. And I think you explained that very well. And I think that's the point that we need to develop and say that it's not really just our council, it's everyone that's in the same situation, particularly tier 1 councils, simply because of the fact that we are compelled to allow growth for the next 30 odd years. So that's really the thing that's impacting on us.
Yeah, thank you, Lou. Liz, and then Marcus.
Look, similar sentiments. I think what I saw that's perhaps slightly different to previous documents is the language is really accessible to all ages. I just saw it easier to read this time, and so well done on that. I thought that was really good. Just one thing that I am starting to get queries around, and I guess because it's a new thing and perhaps we've still got some work to do out there in our communities, is around what is the anchor institution? And I think for the first time, a lot of our ratepayers have started to see that in the document and thought, oh, what is that? And I think you've provided some good description in here, but I think our communities are wanting more. They don't fully understand it simply because we haven't exercised it and it has, it's not a term that many people are particularly familiar with. So I just to highlight that as something that perhaps it would be helpful for me to have a 1-page or 2-page document to send out to people. I'm getting requests for that. Even though there is a pretty good description, it probably just doesn't go far enough for me at this point in time. So just highlighting that as something that's residents are raising with me now. Thanks.
Good, that there's a level of interest in that. Yeah. Roger?
Yeah, can I come in with a supplementary to Liz? Because I actually agree with what Liz has said. And in my feedback on the summer reading, which was 2,500 pages, which I couldn't quite read in Christmas Day, so I've had to stretch either side of Christmas Day. Thank you very much for that, by the way. Very much appreciated. Lovely summer reading. But I did raise the question of anchor institution, and I acknowledge that over the last 3 years, we have had discussions over the anchor institution a number of times. But as with most of our strategic documents, we go out and we consult with the community. I actually don't feel, and I can't remember actively when we sat down and actually discussed the anchor institutions and the implications of introducing an anchor institution and the impact that it'll have on our community, not only in reality, but in perception of actually going out and engaging internally more staff, which may create reaction from the community in terms of councils growing bigger and bigger and bigger. So I just wonder whether there is a need for us to have a greater discussion on anchor institution and its implementation and its impact on our community.
Kirsty, can I ask you to respond to that? And Dale-Marie, and then I'll come back to you, Marcus. We've got on a tangent here.
Thank you. So through the Mayor, I'm just responding to the points made by Councillor Liz and Councillor Roger, sorry. You make valid points, and just by way of clarification and recap, you'll recall that in early 2024, this initiative was really led by our then Chief Executive, Gary Diet. We had several workshops with elected members, and then there was a formal decision made to adopt an anchor institution framework. Further work was then undertaken to develop a work program. As we've gone ahead to further progress the development of Ahuaki, our Waipa Community Spatial Plan, there has been reference within that document to the anchor institution framework and its implementation as part of the implementation plan. You may also be aware that there has been some delay with the development of the economic wellbeing strategy, but that work is progressing, and in fact there is going to be a workshop with you next week on that, before then feedback with the community. And the delivery of the economic wellbeing strategy and the work that Joy Mickelson is doing in her role as Economic Development Advisor is really focused on giving effect to that anchor institution framework, working with large employers and organisations within our community, collaborating more in a more focused way with our iwi partners and other community organisations. We acknowledge that there is a lot more that we can be doing to communicate what the framework is, what the work program involves, and to collaborate not only internally but externally. So absolutely take on board your feedback and know that it is front of mind for our team. Unfortunately, we've had a massive work program and changes that we've had to respond to. So it is one of a number of high priorities, but it will be something that is given appropriate focus this year. Thank you.
Thanks for the explanation. Kirsty, Delmarie, and then to you, Marcus.
Tēnā tātou, tēnā koe Kirsty, I'm going to coattail on you because as you were saying it, I was making notes about when I first heard about anchor institutions, and I'm a little taken back because I recall when Gary brought this to us, because I thought we had a quite a decent discussion in the whare that day around anchor institutions, and I brought up to my peers around whānau order frameworks and how the fundamentals out of the anchor institution framework are actually all in whānau order frameworks. So I'm a little, a little surprised that this has come back at this stage when I thought we've discussed anchor institutions, because my preference would have been a whānau order framework, something that is actually based out of Aotearoa instead of something that was based from overseas. Koe anō, I thought we had got to a certain space. So just commentary. Tēnā tātou.
Thanks, Delmarie. Thank you for that clarification. Any further discussion on that, or I'll throw over to Marcus. Marcus, floor is yours.
Yeah, as previous comments have said, the consultation material is good, but I think it is quite wordy, and I think with the formatting and stuff and adding the bits and pieces will make it better. But it'd be quite good just to have like a quick fact sheet thing, because it's 46 pages, and I just want something I can just go, here, look, and just quick engagement things, because Joe Blogs, I don't think is going to go through 46 pages. I just want something that will give us a quick snapshot. I don't really like the formatting of the key indicator properties. It's just like it's copied and pasted out of an Excel spreadsheet. It's not clear, and it doesn't really word well and grab you and easy to understand. So I think some work needs to be done around that. And I also noticed, and I don't know, I might be going off topic here, so if I do, just pull me back in line. Page 55 of our agenda, let's go back to it, which is on the Appendix 2, the draft financial information. The two paragraphs at the bottom there don't make any sense to me, which is page 55 in Diligent, Appendix 2. Yeah, the two paragraphs there, they don't make any sense to me, and it could be how I'm reading them, or if someone can explain to me how those two paragraphs are supposed to go. And that's it for me.
So that's a draft, Appendix 2 draft financial information. So that's akin.
Page 55.
Yeah.
And
Page 55 in Diligent. It's a
Yes.
page that is headed rates breakdown indicator properties. It's a
Yeah.
couple of tables and then two paragraphs.
Yeah, look, essentially, Councillor Marcus, it's just an explanation in regard to how we have brought metered water rates into the indicator properties, but because of course metered water is a volumetric charge. It will differ property to property by how long they turn the tap on, really. So look, to be able to present these indicator properties, we've actually used average consumption levels, and then we've just assumed that each of these we've used the same consistent average consumption levels across all these properties, and that's all that's.
But
all
I
it's
think
trying
if
to
you're
say.
Joe Blogs picking this up and reading it, I don't know if Claire has looked at it, but it doesn't. I'm looking at that page. I read those two paragraphs, and it's like, what? It's not. I can't make it click. And then if you look at the indicator properties as well, just the whole layout and the formatting of indicator properties needs to be changed, because it just doesn't, it's not clear and and like what it is.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. Look, we'll certainly take those comments on board. We'll look to reword those paragraphs. Lisa, as part of the certainly in terms of the consultation document. I mean, when that's formatted up, we'll certainly take those comments on board as well in regard to the tables. Yeah.
Lisa, did you want to respond to that? And I then have Claire.
Marcus, just to give you some assurance that design will fix the indicator properties. It's simply just the raw data at the moment for audit qualification.
Awesome. Claire,
Yeah, so just responding to you, Marcus, yeah, I read those first two little charts as a kind of like an introduction to the rest of it. It's sort of, yeah, and so whether or not it was a bit clear about that. And I was interested to, like you've mentioned that you struggle with the presentation of the individual indicator properties, but it'd be good to, if we could say what things you are looking for. Yeah, you know, like whether or not they're grouped more substantially, like these are all Cambridge ones, you know, because I mean, it does, I'm not
It's
too sure
just a
what you're looking for.
Formatting issue, but as like it is raw data. I mean, it's just copied out of an Excel workbook, and it's you
Yeah.
know the headings and stuff are not quite. It's not clear that you know Cambridge Ward residential. Also, some things about like what is a UAGC and all that kind of stuff. You know, just to make it a bit easier to read. Yeah, but yeah, no doubt you.
Great. We've understood that this is for essentially content only, but once we get the actual consultation document, it will look prettier. But good question, Claire, observation, Claire, around, you know, asking ourselves to come up with suggestions rather than, you know, it's more helpful way forward. But yeah, that should be resolved, hopefully, Marcus. Monty.
Just a quick one, seeing we're on waters and audit, page 17 of this consultation document claims we've got 114,000 connected properties to the wastewater system. It seems high.
You're correct, councillor. It is high. It should be 14,000.
That's what I figured. Page 17 of the consultation document. Leave it in there and see if the auditors pick it.
Yeah, good catch. Great. Pick that one up. Well done. Andrew, did you want something to add there?
Just very briefly, Marcus, I think what's not clear is that the first paragraph is referring to residential connected supplies and the second one to commercial, and it isn't very clear. So, but yeah, yeah. I just want to say I think this consultation document is really good. Yeah, 46 pages is a big chunk, but it's a big lot of stuff to swallow. So, you know, it's kind of is what it is. Although, I mean, if there was a one pager able to be developed, I think that'd be great as well. What I really liked too was any questions about that were raised when I was reading that. Very easy to refer back to the raw data, you know, to the relevant appendix and track it down. So, you know, well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Lo, did you want to add something?
Going back to, through the chair, just going back to anchor institutions, have we got anyone that is actually registered it currently as an anchor institution? And could that be implemented in there to just give people a bit more idea? I do tend to agree with what you said, Liz, but if we had some of the institutions that we have listed, have we got any yet?
So we don't operate a register of anchor institutions, but there are certainly organisations, large scale and impactful community organisations that we're working with. So we can give some examples, perhaps by way of classification type rather than identifying a particular business or organisation, but we can look at that. Thank you. It's a great suggestion, Lou. Thank you.
I just have a technical kind of issue. Consultation closes on Monday, April the 21st. That's Easter Monday. Does that have any particular challenge or issue?
Sorry.
Not from our perspective, Your Worship. All
Cool.
of our online digital tools we can actually set to close at a particular time and day.
Cool, no, that's awesome. I just thought I'd flag that sometimes that, you know, if it said April 25, we'd recognise the date, but it being as it's a holiday that moves. Cool, excellent, as long as it's not an issue. Any other questions for Lisa in respect of the draft consultation document itself? No? Yeah, look, I just summarise, I guess, the comments that have been made in that, look, there's some really complex issues, you know, and I think it's a real talent and skill to be able to absorb really complex information and produce it in a format and in a way and use language that is accessible. Not everybody has that skill, and I really, I want to applaud and acknowledge that that is a skill that your comms team have managed to pull out really, really to the fore in this particular paper. It's a tough story to tell, but it's even tougher when it's as complex as it is to tell it. And I think you've really managed to keep it as simple or as uncomplicated as you can. It's a real art. So I'm really impressed with it. And like the others, really looking forward to seeing it come alive with the graphs, the pictures and the design that really lifts it to being more real time, if you like, and applicable to us and our district. But certainly the content, the wording, the way it sort of evolves, I think is really clever. And I know it's been a cross organisation input, so I just really want to acknowledge everybody's work in that, and all the hours and hours and hours and tearing your hair out that you've gone through an iteration after iteration, and quick pivots at the 11th hour too, obviously. So look, I'm really comfortable with the document as it stands, and really looking forward to seeing the final version, subject to audits, observations and comments and feedback. Roger.
I presume we're now going to move this motion, but just if I could, we're talking about not only the draft consultation document, but the content of the LTP that sits behind that document that's provided the challenge in communicating that to our community. And I just want to say that the content of the LTP, you know, it's gone through a number of workshops and a number of iterations. And in fact, even that final content that was included in that summer reading of 2,500 pages, which actually provided some of us with the opportunity to provide feedback on things that were still questionable and not everything that we agreed with. So, you know, there were points, and that's a democracy. You know, you go through a document and you accept some and you question others. But just that the LTP document as such did not go through without substantial questions, and I think from Claire and myself. So it wasn't, as I say, without question. So I just wanted that acknowledged in terms of the LTP.
Yeah, Roger, you raise a really good point, and it was something that we talked about before the meeting. I did also want to acknowledge the work that you and Claire have done, and very diligent in terms of providing questions and testing some, not so much assumptions, but some of the commentary and the way that some of the documents have been written, and that feedback obviously has been provided to us and certainly formed a number of changes that will go forward. You'll all be aware that's in Diligent, available to you there. So thank you to you both for your hard work. And it does not go unnoticed, Roger.
No, I realise that. But just to also mention that those questions and documents and responses are available to the public should they wish to request them.
Like most of our work, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but certainly it's available for councillors to reflect
the
on.
Goima group, but I just think that the public awareness of those questions is an important part of the democratic process of
Absolutely.
accepting the LTP.
Absolutely. Thank you, Roger. Melissa, did you have anything else that you wished to raise with us? So, well, here we are then, page 22 of our agenda. Obviously, we've got a recommendation before us, and I'm definitely not going to read the whole thing out, but obviously we have a recommendation to receive Melissa's report, to approve the consultation document in principle for the purposes of audit, to approve a whole bunch of appendices from number 2 right through to number 27, which provide the basis for the preparation of our draft LTP and is relied on for the content of that draft LTP consultation document. We also agree for the documentation referred to above, all of the 27, Appendix 2 to 27, to be referred, as well as the consultation document itself in draft form, to the Auditor General's approved auditor, which is of course Audit New Zealand, for audit in accordance with our legislative requirements. We also note that the draft LTP consultation document supporting documents may result in further amendments to the documents to meet those requirements. Be interesting to see what they come back at every year. It's always a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? And then that audit report will be provided to SP&P at the 19 March meeting, alongside the final draft LTP consultation document, together with that supporting documentation. Just further note that the formal public consultation is scheduled for 21 March, 21 April, and will conform with the special consultative procedure outlined in the LGA. And formal approval will be sought for that on the 19th of March at that meeting. And we further approve the application to the local government funding agency for the bespoke covenant as canvassed in the letter attached to this agenda and covered by way of explanation by Ken. So in a potted summary, those are the recommendations that sit before us. I'm comfortable to move all of those recommendations from the chair, and I would be seeking a seconder. Marcus, are you comfortable seconding that? That being the case, I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Wonderful stuff. Well done.
Yeah. Well done, Karen. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly cross-organisational effort. I'm really pleased we got there. Really great collaboration, peeps. Okay, so let's just break, I think, for morning tea. We'll come back at 10:15, I think. 10:15? We shall see you then. Right, people, welcome back. Lovely cup of tea and a chinwag. So let's recommence our agenda item after a morning tea break. The next item on our agenda is the proposed meeting schedule for March 2025 to September 2025. And although Diana is available, I believe George is going to lead this paper. Good morning, ladies. Nice to see you both.
Good morning, thank you. So I just want to just make some opening statements and just sort of revisit some of the background to how this report has come about. So the paper is the outcome of some robust and considered continuous improvement work that was completed prior to Christmas with the focus on strengthening council's governance processes. So we've had the current governance cycle in place for a long time, and council and community needs and work programs have changed significantly over time. Governance processes take a considerable effort from both the organisation and elected members, and the current cycle of meetings does put a significant level of pressure on staff and councillors. And underpinning this work is wanting to ensure our governance processes are as efficient and effective as possible to support good decision making for our communities. So when this work was initiated, elected members were unanimous in the desire to seek to make improvements into how we were managing our governance cycle. We had Vern Walsh come and speak to us from Meeting Governance and talk to us about what good governance looks like. And we've applied those principles to what we are proposing in the paper today. We also looked across a number of other councils and their practices, and it did highlight to us that Waipa is somewhat of an anomaly in holding both council and substantive committee meetings on a monthly basis. So taking these points into account, we are proposing a number of changes in the report. And those changes, what we're really seeking to do is make the use of time more efficient, reducing the workloads for both staff and elected members through extending the time between meetings. We are, however, still proposing the monthly cadence of the council meeting because we want to renew focus of the council meeting on more strategic matters. We want to ensure that councillors focus on the right matters and have the appropriate information and time to consider those and make focused and really robust decisions. Underpinning it also is we need to make sure that the governance cycle is best supported by our organisational processes. There are a number of steps that sit behind the generation of reports, and these take time to ensure that elected members and the community get a high level of quality information and that information has had the right input from the right people at the right time. And this also includes the executive team who have significant input into the oversight of report content. And they're also looking at their timing and making changes to support this proposal as well. So to better enable these processes for practical reasons and to meet what we've suggested, we have proposed a reduced cadence of those substantive committees, but retaining council on a monthly basis. We are looking to move the day that they are held out to later in the week. And just reiterating again, that's really to make sure that our organisational processes better support the day that those meetings are held on. And you will recall a Wednesday or a Thursday was discussed with elected members and the direction was settled on, and that Wednesday would be the preferred day. The other point I would like to highlight, which is aligned with the objectives we're trying to achieve, is the reduction of information-only reports. So elected members have the time to focus on those key matters. And just by way of update, we are currently actively working on an alternative way of getting that information to you. And that should be available in the next 2 to 3 weeks for you to have a look at. So that's really, I guess, the journey that we've been on and a little bit of the why and how we've got to where we are and the recommendations in the report. And I just wanted to hand over to Diana to just go through a couple of details that are important.
Thank you, George. Yes, so the report itself seeks approval for the calendar from March to September this year to set out our meeting calendar. And as you know, we've already approved the January and February meeting schedule. And then also to supplement the changes that have been proposed with the meeting cadence, we've made a number of recommendations as well. The first is that we discharge the housing subcommittee. The housing subcommittee work is a priority for council, but we're going to move that work into the SPMP committee so it can be considered there. It's also recommended that we appoint a road closure subcommittee. Service delivery currently considers road enclosure issues, but sometimes those decisions are needed more frequently than every 2 months. So a subcommittee is recommended to be formed that could consider those sort of more urgent decisions that can't wait to the next service delivery committee meeting. And finally, the other sort of supplement to the meeting calendar is a recommendation for a group of elected members to approve those contracting decisions that can't wait to the relevant service committee, service delivery or other committee meeting. It just means that sort of if a tender needs to be approved or a contract needs to be approved, that can't wait the 2-month period, that this delegated group would be able to make that decision. But that's subject to a number of conditions as set out in the recommendations to ensure that that's appropriately exercised, including that it'll be reported back to the next council meeting. We're very happy to take any questions.
Thanks, George and Diana. Really comprehensive report. I shall open the floor then to questions. Claire, looks like to be, and then Roger.
Yeah, thanks, George and Diana. Yeah, I support the proposals that are made. Obviously, you know, like it's a bit of an unknown how it's going to pan out, and I'm hoping that we'll be flexible as we go forward. But I certainly agree with the principles or the reasons why we're trying to do this. You know, like I have found it challenging to get stuff read in time, and I know that, you know, the later that you receive it, yeah, the harder it is. So I think holding it on Wednesday, I think will alleviate that somewhat. And also the chance too that if you've got a question, you can actually ask staff about it, because normally when we get it like really late on at the end of the week, you know, you've got the weekend where you're reading it and you can't actually ask a question. So, you know, having that extra time will I certainly would appreciate that. I did have a couple of questions about the wording of the recommendations. And I thought I'd just go with that first one about the power to approve contracts of up to $10 million actually, because one thing I would be worried about, like I thought that it would probably be that, you know, the processes had definitely been adhered to, and, you know, it was anticipated that that contract was going to go ahead and things like that. So I'm just concerned about our debt headroom, so that if a project gets or a contract gets approved of up to $10 million and it impacts our debt headroom, and everyone else saying, who did this? You know, oh, that was done under urgency. You know, like, I just hope there's some safeguards there. Yeah, that how that debt headroom is going to be managed. Yeah.
Ken
So that's
will
my first question.
reassure you there, Ken.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Councillor Clare. Look, I think it's really crucial that at the bottom of page 2923, the last bullet point there. So this would be approval of contracts that have already been budgeted for in council's long-term plan or annual plan. So look, the budget is already there. So the headroom is already accounted for. There's no provision to go beyond that. To go beyond that, if there was a seeking for a budget change associated with the awarding of a contract, they would have to come back to a full committee meeting.
Cool, that's cool. And then I just two other points of clarification. The first one is on page 2 of the report, or 2923 of the agenda. The heading at the bottom of that page is conditions of delegations, and the first bullet point talks about that delegation only be exercised in relation to urgent matters arising between the relevant committee meeting. So I just thought that wording was a little bit loose. I'd like to see it changed to the relevant committee's normal schedule of meetings. Yeah, just to be clear on it. Yeah, yeah. And then on the next page, which is the background, yeah, there's a set of bullet points there about the review involving a number of recommendations. And the third bullet point is that council and workshop days are held every month with the exception of July. Could we put January and July? Because I know we do have some meetings in January, but it's not the full schedule of meetings, and I'm really keen to minimise them. I don't want to see the full schedule of council meetings and workshops come back into July. So, sorry, January to January, sorry. Yeah.
Councillor Clare, would you be okay if we were to, taking your point, I think it's a really good one to protect and preserve that time for elected members and your families. Council and workshop days are held every month with the exception of the predominance of January and July or something like that, which clearly states that we will try and, I mean, it gets at semantics, but I think it is important.
Anyway, I
because
just
reality
wanted
is
to raise it
sometimes
for
in that last
discussion.
week
Yeah.
of January, isn't it? The
Yes.
predominance of January and most in July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, we do actually have some workshops sometimes in July as well. Yeah.
But we
yeah.
just,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does it
For
make
something like
sense,
that.
George? And
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Just
Yeah.
this bullet point, the third bullet point, we will note that it's not within the resolution itself, but the first suggestion is, and we'll just start reflecting that in a revised resolution now.
Did you have another one, Claire? Those are your three? Awesome. Thanks for that. Great points. Any other comments? Andrew and then Monty. Sorry, Roger. Andrew, then Monty.
See, after a holiday, they forget they exist. And no, seriously. I've got my green light on already. I've got a number of questions to raise in terms of what's in these recommendations. The cadence of meetings, and I can see the rationale for making the key meetings, is it bi-monthly or every 2 months? Every 2 months. And I think that will help. Obviously, I've been one of those that's been complaining about not having the information in good time to consider and make decisions on. So obviously that time between the meetings is going to help that tremendously. And also the sifting of the information so that we get the right information at the right time. However, in saying that, I think now that the second of the considerations in terms of changing the meeting day to a Wednesday has been mitigated by the fact that we now have that extra time that would enable provision of information. Now, then, like all other councillors, I did receive the email from the media explaining how our decision is going to impact the local media in Cambridge and TA. And that really concerns me because I believe that we have a good media. I believe that there are good and bad stories that go in. But to be honest, in some occasions, you pick the paper and it's 40% council business. And there's also the little briefs that come out that give the tidbits. So to actually have our meeting after the deadline of the newspaper is actually going to mean that any news that comes out by the time of the next publication is going to be old news. And it's not going to be reported. And I think we've already seen the feedback from the Chamber of Commerce, who have said that that is not a good idea, that we have to respect the integrity and the function of the local media. And I would like to see us going back to the Tuesday, particularly now that we've got that cadence of 2 months. I can't see the real necessity to go to a Wednesday. And I suggest I'd prefer to see us go. I know that we did have the opportunity to discuss it, and I have to admit that I did not realise the implication of that deadline that the paper has. And I have to say that had I known this, then I would have voted against it, because I believe in the role of a good local newspaper. I think in some regards, I wonder why we weren't advised that this was a consideration. Because I think, Lisa, respect to you, but you're the professional in this. I think the information should have come through to us that in fact that media deadline was a factor that we should have considered at the time we made the decision. So I'm asking all councillors to consider that, and perhaps accepting the cadence of 2 monthly meetings, actually go back to having a Tuesday meeting of the major committees.
George or Steph, or shall I move on to Andrew?
I was just gonna, I guess from the staff perspective in terms of generating the recommendations within this report, what we've prioritised is efficient and effective processes to develop the content for elected members that enable you to make good decisions on behalf of the community. So that's the priority that we've placed on the recommendations that we've made. And that's why we have suggested that the meeting day moves out later to the week to enable all of those organisational processes to be optimised and all the inputs into the information that you receive to be optimised more than what they are now, and to give you some more time.
Thanks, George. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks. So, look, I'm totally in favour of the recommendation, and like everyone, I received the email from Roy Pilot of Good Local, and yeah, I was a little. My first reaction was, oh, gee, you know, and I guess it would have been more ideal if they had been, you know, informed. Even though my memory says it was an open meeting that this was discussed in. So, but putting all that aside, when I reflected, I think the crucial thing from our point of view is optimised process. And to me, you know, I hear what you said, Roger, but I think the extra day before the meeting will make a huge difference, not only to staff, but to us. For me, having 2 days before the meeting in the week, I like to have my weekends to myself to be, you know, so, and I have those 2 days available, and it will be good. I will, not going to go through all my processes here, but that will be great. And I do think, you know, thinking about the media, like I understand their issue, their predicament, if you like, but we don't want to put the cart before the horse. And what I mean by that is that optimising our processes here, that is our first responsibility. It's up to the press to organise themselves to you know, to if they need to change a publication date, well, maybe they do. But, you know, and look, don't get me wrong, I think Good Local does a really good job on reporting what happens around council tapes, and it's important that the fourth estate is really important in democracies, and in, you know, and Good Local does do a good job on that. But come back to my first point, our processes here are the critical factor, I believe.
Thanks, Andrew. Monty. Oh, sorry, it was Andrew, Monty, then Marcus.
Marcus.
Oh. Okay, Monty.
Look, I've got separate questions, but let's follow this thread, I suggest, because there's been two views expressed here. And so just on that thread, could I ask George, you talked about sort of optimised internal processes around a Wednesday meeting. Could we just drill down into that a little bit more so I understand what that optimisation will look like in terms of what it means for the staff and what it means for agendas and materials being made publicly available, etc.?
From a staff perspective, it allows us more time to be able to respond to elected members in regards to any questions, any points of clarification that might arise. From a staffing perspective, as with you, we're working to a working week as well. And so that allows us to give more dedicated time, more focus for you within the working week, rather than we often do address things for you on a weekend, and we're happy to do that, but it would be more effective and efficient when all staff are available for us to be able to get information that you need during working hours during the week, which is much harder for us to do out of working hours.
Can I ask a question regarding that?
Just
Because
Steph, no,
hasn't
hold on,
that-
Roger. Steph was going to add to what George had to say there.
Just a supplementary to that is that the calendar week is important because of the processes that sit behind the due diligence and quality assurance that sits behind the process of anything coming to council or committee meetings, requires, if not all of exec approval through an exec meeting, but certainly the approval of a general manager or a project governance group. And prior to that is all the working within a team. So, and if you think about that across the scale of our business, with all of the activities that we have and all of the contextual changes, to able to orchestrate that in terms of the machinery of business. So most councils, not all, but most councils have their meetings, which Vern also shared with us towards the end of the week. So look, if it improved it, I mean, I'm happy, you know, that Wednesday or Thursday decision, I'm sure we'd be open to that conversation, but it certainly improves, and in my experience, allows the executive to have greater oversight as well before coming to a council meeting later in the week. So the cadence of that calendar week, not only a monthly week, a monthly timeframe, is actually really important, allowing for that QA process to happen. I've got a broader set of things I would speak to, but I'll end it at that point to enable the conversation to take place.
Are you comfortable with that clarification, Monty? Okay, so then moving on then to Marcus.
Yeah, I have no problems with it being on Wednesday, and after hearing the explanations and things is good. I mean, I don't even get the good news delivered to my letterbox at all. And I think the reality is that print media is on the way out. So if I get the highlights, I go to their Facebook feed and click on it, and I get the stories that they've posted now. So I get my needs satisfied instantly, rather waiting for something that doesn't appear in my letterbox. And that's just the way that it's going. Yeah.
Thanks, Marcus. And Mike Pettit next. Then you, Philip.
Thank you through the chair. Hey, a couple of comments, just picking up on some of George's comments here around, I brought up before about my concern about staff having working on weekends, when I really don't see that as us causing, you know, if we're the cause of that, then we're in control of that, and I feel really uncomfortable about that. So the Wednesdays work for me. I stuck with it last year and I'll stick with it again. The other thing is it's by sitting around here with a lot of staff on who are managers in the senior roles around this table. If we can be as efficient and let them get on with their other mahi, apart from just feeding us, if we don't need to be fed into these meetings, because they all take time, and time is the opportunity cost of them sitting here is they can be doing some other stuff for the Waipā residents, not just to feed us, because you know they're interacting and their staff are interacting with the community, and that all takes time, and they need to be more time that they've got to be on top of that. That's a good thing. The only other thing I'd suggest though is I love continuous change for the better, and we operate there at the place I work at. But with something, this is reasonably significant, and I'm just looking at this calendar, and I'm just wondering if we can get through maybe a couple of cycles of this, and the possibility of throwing this on the June 25th council agenda, because there's a month of basically a break there. And then we could go, hey, this is actually working for staff, it's working for us, or it's not, or it's actually this part's working, this part isn't. You know, we need another one of these meetings, but this one's still bi-monthly fine. It might just be a little stock take, because if we go after that, you're sort of into an election, and then we can help at least set the scene for the next group of people sitting around these tables to either, to at least take on, and we've tested it.
Yeah, good, great comments there, Mike. It does set out in the report on page 4 of the report that there would be a review undertaken in August. So there was always an intention for there to be a review, but if we could potentially, if there's finds favour to bring it forward, then by all means.
And I guess just to supplement that, absolutely. I mean, this is definitely a continuous improvement piece of work, and this is very much trying this out and continuously improving it to see how it goes. It's not going to be 100% on day one, and I think we recognise that. So yeah, an earlier review and input would be valuable.
Thanks. Interestingly, just as an aside, I was listening to a podcast recently and they were talking about innovation, how everybody strives for, constantly calls for innovation, but inherent in innovation is not getting it right the first time. Mm-hmm. and I guess we have to be open to that. So on my little list here, I had Philip and then Liz. Cool.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, there's lots of toing and froing here, but on Marcus's point about going online, yeah, I mean, a lot of us do go online, but there's a lot of people in the community that don't go online and haven't got the capabilities of being able to do that. With the media, I'm going to say this with the total bit of respect, but, there's so many other implications. It's not just the media, but have we missed an opportunity again not to communicate with the communicators? They only found out about it yesterday or the day before, whatever. So there, we've said in the past, we must do our communications better, but have we done it? It appears we may not have done. And then, with the 7 days, I mean, there's so many implications of changing meetings around for not just the newspaper or for us or for anybody. There's so many other implications out there. 7 days, there's 7 days, whatever day of the week it is, it starts at. And so there's that. And then just with the $10 million, the funding there, I take Ken's point on, but can we make that 5 million instead? Because I mean, 10 million is a huge amount of money, and yes, it may be approved in the LTP, but that's a huge amount of money. So yeah, that's my thoughts anyway.
Thanks, Philip. Ken, to answer the 10 million.
Yes.
Because I haven't finished my questions and Philip just raised a new point. Finish the discussion on this question and then allow me to come back and continue with my questions. Because I think what Philip raises is important, but I'd like a separate discussion and like the rest of the voices to be heard on this Tuesday, Wednesday issue first.
I think we've had a pretty clear practice that each time a person raises or adds a observational questions, we answer them at the time. And I think it's only right that Ken answer that issue in respect to the 10 million. It just as when Claire had raised her questions at the beginning, she had 3 questions and they were all correspondingly answered at the time. So I'll ask Ken to address Philip's question about the restriction of the quantum from 10 to 5 or what the rationale is behind that.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And thank you for the question, Councillor Philip. Hey, we did put quite a bit of thought into the 10 million. I think it's important to bear in mind that the Chief Executive already has authority on very similar terms to approve up to $2 million. Okay, so we've already got that $2 million delegation. This was looking to to extend that ability, in line with the conditions here up to another level. And I guess looking at the value of the contracts that we are awarding, $10 million seemed to us to be appropriate. I think at 5 million, there'd be a number of contracts that would be in that 5 to 10 million that we wouldn't be able to enable. So like I say, we have a view of the business, we have a view of what level of contract we are committing, bearing in mind there's a lot of conditions and there in terms of it needing urgency, in terms of it being already budgeted, in terms of the reporting back at the next meeting of the committee, etc. So staff felt that 10 million was appropriate. I don't think 5 million's really going to work for us. Yeah.
But thank you, Ken, for explaining that, but with over the next couple of years, we've got such high increase in rates. Should we be, and then it starts dropping down after that, should we be even more prudent, more careful, have a lot more discussion on some of these projects rather than just having it up to 10 million?
So I mean, really, just bearing in mind and just stepping back again for a minute in terms of this. So this is all stuff that's been envisaged. It's all been budgeted. This is basically a group of elected members, and bearing in mind it's a fairly significant size-wise group of elected members as well. So it's mayor, it's the deputy mayor, it's the committee, the committee chairs. So look, it's just them testing that in regard to a contract that staff are recommending awarding, it's just them testing that the processes have been appropriate, that everything is in line with expectations and giving that the go ahead. So look, I think it's still a robust test before we enter a contract.
And as you mentioned that staff have discussed this, has this been discussed with the chairs and the mayor and deputy mayor and everything as well, collectively on that? Or because you just mentioned it was staff that have come up with it?
Do you want to go?
I attended I attend exec from time to time, particularly around LTP, and I sat in on this item. And we had some pretty thorough discussion. I too wanted certainty that that there was confidence around this table that the right checks and balances were in place. And staff, I believe, have done that. That there is nothing in terms of the delegation that extends mine or the deputy mayor or the chair's ability to spend willy-nilly like drunken sailors. It's all within budgets, and it's really just to facilitate the execution of those contracts because of the timing issues, really. And it's likely to be an extraordinary kind of event anyway. It's not likely to happen very much, just on the off chance that we find a contract needs to be entered into well before the next available meeting.
Can I ask a further question then on that, saying if we're going into that 10 minutes? Notice that Liz hasn't had the opportunity to talk on the Tuesday, Wednesday thing. But in terms of this group of people that we're selecting, the mayor and together with the chairs, so we've got, are we calling that the executive elected members group? And is there a forum of that group that would be in place? Because of normal committee meetings, we have a quorum of 50%. If that quorum were to be applied to this group, and if the mayor were to be one of those committee chairs, that could be a group of 4 people with a quorum of 2. And I think that would be dangerous.
Diana?
I'm really concerned about the level of authority given to a select group of people, and we are not allowing the integrity of council to oversee an amount of 10 million, which I think is a major amount. I'm happy with the 2 million. 10 million, I'm really against.
Diana.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just to clarify, this isn't, the delegation isn't creating a committee, it's a delegation and to elected members. And as you'll see, it has to be all of the listed roles there. So it's the mayor and the chairs of the service delivery, strategic planning and policy, finance and corporate and regulatory committee. So it has to be all of them that approves. And if they're not available, it's the relevant deputy that could make the decision. So it all has to be collectively made that decision. And just to sort of add on that 10 million point, the delegations for contracts, it's the entire amount of the contract. So you might, for example, have gone to council to get approval for a $5 million contract, but for whatever reason you need a variation which adds, say, another 500,000, in which case you would actually need to get the right delegation to approve the entire amount, not just that small amount. So that's often what happens, is that you're actually looking for a variation to an existing contract, which the entire amount goes across the delegation.
Can I ask for clarification? When you talk about the presence of...
Press your button, Roger.
Sorry. When you talk about the presence of the attendees at that group, if, for instance, the chair of the service committee and the deputy chair of the service committee were not available, does that mean that that group would not proceed?
Through Your Worship, that is correct. So it has to be all of them acting together. Yeah, that's how it operates.
Step in there. I think what we're talking about here are exceptions. So you've approved the work program, as Ken has said, through the annual plan process. You will have talked about this at either Strategic Policy and Planning Committee or Service Delivery Committee under the chairmanship of Councillor Clare, or Finance and Corporate. So you'll have kicked around the project, the expenditure, the quantums, and they will be approved through the process that you all are very familiar with. And just to confirm that this is looking... there's no subterfuge here. We're not looking for a quick way to get things through or a different way to approve things. This is for the exception where it's largely timing or a variation that needs to be approved to have that extra layer of approval, to Philip's point about really being careful about our approvals in the next 5 years with our ceilings around the finances, and that it will be an exception to the rule where it falls outside of a regular meeting schedule and we need that oversight of it. Now, I would expect that somebody could even join online, which, thanks to modern technology, is going to make this a whole lot easier. So it's looking for the exception, Councillor Roger. This shouldn't be the norm. If it's the norm, then something's going wrong in the bigger process. It's a symptom of a cause. So what we're trying to do is have thought through as many what ifs and possibles as we try this new cadence, and just thought, let's not, because look, the business is running on that scale every day of the week. We've got $2.6 billion worth of assets. $10 million, I know, sounds a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But the business is running at that scale on a daily and weekly basis anyway. And what we're trying to say is that we want to make sure that the prudent delegations and oversights are in place as required to enable good governance and good executive decision making. And so this is to affect the very things that I know that you as councillors are looking for. And it will be the exception. Again, in June, when we do a review, as Councillor Mike's proposed, we could say how many of those meetings have been held. Yeah. For what reasons? And let's have a look at it then. I really
hate to see we've increased through a different cadence the time period between committee meetings. And I'd hate to see that extended period is given as an excuse that there's an opportunity to actually push through with this committee some expenditure. Because the next committee meeting's still in another month's time.
Councillor Roger, I'd expect you to expect that your colleagues will be looking at me in the case, you're all here on the same page of being prudent, careful, diligent elected members. the standards that you're applying, I would expect, I look around this table and know you'll all apply. And if any of those chairs got a whiff that they thought something was funny, I know that they would be in my office asking me questions. So I appreciate your concern, but I think it's delegated authorities to chairs of councils are an important part of our business.
Andrew, but I haven't forgotten Liz. It's on this.
And so is this. So I just wanted to ask a question, actually, given that it's the exception and we're not expecting lots of them. What's wrong with the current plan where we call an extraordinary meeting? And the reason I ask that is variations do come about, and we're all elected in our particular areas of, Cambridge, Te Awamutu, Parongia, everywhere. And sometimes variations do, they are related to a particular place. I'm just reflecting on the Cambridge wastewater treatment plant, things like that. So having us all around the table does provide the chairs with reassurance, and going back to Claire's point here, that actually the chairs aren't put under undue pressure to kind of approve something, even though it was budgeted, but the variations is where I kind of get a little bit concerned at times. And I always love the fact that as a team, we're all able to bring all of our knowledge together, and we look at a variation, and all that on-ground knowledge is actually always really quite useful at times. So I guess my question is, why change a system that's currently working with extraordinary meetings? I know it's a few extra people, but as a chair at the moment, I like that extra level of comfort knowing that the whole team is also approving this with me. So I'm just interested why the decision to go.
I take your point about the value that the different skills and knowledge around the table bring and geographical experience. But I guess the purpose of this, as Georgie has said, is to become more efficient and more effective. And what you see around this table and the value that you get as chair is there's always background work. So every meeting we call, it's more work in the governance team. We have to publicly advertise. It's not just you coming around the table, and it's that cadence that we're trying to get to be more efficient and effective. There is nothing preventing those chairs as they meet as a collective from getting on the phone and ringing people or saying, would you join us for a Teams meeting to talk about this particular issue? I've got some questions. There's nothing preventing any of that. It's not a formal committee, as Diana said. And if we move to that point, then we might as well stay where we are, as you're suggesting. But we've agreed that the purpose of this pilot to try something different is to try and reduce the number of meetings and the frequency with which you all have to come together, and that it's actually relying on some high trust, both in terms of the mayoral delegation to be able to appoint chairs at the beginning of the triennium, and knowing that those people are capable, responsible, and have the wherewithal to do the job. As a collective, that strengthens that, but also knowing that with strong relationships that you can call on those other councillors as and when you need them.
Thanks, Steph. Andrew, and then I have Dale Marie and then Claire.
So just on this point, I take it that if, for instance, a variation was what was, the question at the time that we need this delegation for, if that variation took us outside the budget, then it could not happen. So in other words, this cannot have an impact on rates negatively in the future. It is only, so, if we went outside that point, it's just no go. That's come back to a committee, simple as that. So, I think that's the point.
And just the other thing too, just in terms of what we've already said, there is that opportunity to collaborate and seek clarification through that process. There's also the transparency of reporting any of this back through council as well. So there's also another opportunity for learnings and for conversation at that point in terms of how the process went, and if any changes do need to be made. So it's very much a cyclical, continuous conversation that you'll be able to have in regard to the process.
Thanks, George. Dale Marie and then Claire.
Kia ora tātou. I'm In part, listening to everybody's conversations, I was starting to feel like we weren't trusting each other as peers at this table. So I'm not too sure where some of this has come from, because I leaned in with Ken as the new person on the block around, is this around contractual and dates and things like that lining up. So I'm comfortable with that, and I'm just going to revert back to the meeting calendar and stuff like that. And Mary, if you're online watching, dear, please answer my emails, because I've wanted to include some communication into Good Local, and I have not been responded to. So I don't actually have the same views as everybody else around our media outlet, but I'm always, if Mary is listening online or anybody from Good Local, I'm always keen for a hui with you guys to have a discussion about how this might look this year. But in the whole scheme of things, I'm comfortable with the way we go, because I know that we have two very due diligent people in our team called Roger and Claire, who absolutely investigate things in the background. I'd like to take my head off to legal and Georgie, who are explaining to us again our processes, because I was at a loss, Philip, to some of your commentary today. Because I know that these things have come across our table. And me koe, Roger, I'm a little bit puzzled, because a few of these things we've discussed as peers, as a collective team. So I'm all about optimisation, because this Māori girl's got to deal with the whole entire district, not just a ward. And you guys get to do just a ward. Whereas my job is a little bit busier than everybody else's, and especially while we're doing submissions and things like that. I can't wait to get to the next point. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, thank you, Dale Marie. Claire.
Yeah, thanks. So it's been a really good discussion about this particular way to approve contracts up to 10 million. So firstly, trust doesn't come into it for me. It's about the process, okay, because I don't think it's a good thing to just say, well, we trust you to make the right decision. No, we've got a process and it's going to be followed. And we've thought a lot about how that process is going to work. And I'm happy with what's proposed. I think a decision tree would have been quite good, right? You know, no impact on rates within, within the contract terms, debt limit, okay, just go with that group. And then what happens next? Is it an extraordinary council meeting, or is it we wait for the usual cycle? Yeah, like that, I think that would be really helpful, because we do want to know what the steps are and how it would work. Like sometimes I agree with Liz, when we're all around the table, there's going to be someone who actually knows about that contract in much more specific detail, and they'll be able to contribute something that actually is really good to have that info. But I think it's safe if we, have those parameters, around it. For that just those chairs and the mayor involved. I guess I'm keen to see it trial, because it means that all of us don't have to come in for a 5-minute meeting, 1 month. And so it is going to save us a lot of time, but we do have to have confidence in that process. That procedure that's going to be followed. Thanks.
Thanks, Claire. Liz, before we wind.
Yeah, look, thank you. I think, we really, for a lot of us, this was just new. And I think it would have been, wouldn't be good governance for us to have had this really robust discussion. So I think this is really important to have done this. So look, Claire, I'm with you. I like the idea of the decision-making tree. I think that protects the chairs. And also just clarifying in the report, the quorum, those sorts of things. That was one of my immediate questions, and it wasn't in the report. It's like, making sure that as governors, we are approving something that has, protections in place for those chairs. Hey, can I go back to the, I haven't had a chance to talk about the other parts of this item around the calendar and whatever. So just on the calendar, and obviously the not only the email from our media newspaper, but also from the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce. Did everyone receive that? Okay, good. So I'm just wanting to kind of just put my voice out there for local businesses, because as a business owner before I was elected on council, you do rely on print to hear and understand what council is up to. So it's a really important voice, and it should have been a consideration, I think, when we were making our decision pre-Christmas. But with that in mind, agree with Mike Pettit. We've got an online opportunity now. We've also got all the other voices that I guess around this table that can also communicate out there to our communities too. And we've got online forums and all the things. So I'm quite happy with moving to the Wednesday. But I just want to put that voice out there around the business community, because I thought it hadn't been mentioned and I felt it was important to recognise that. And just the last item, which was the bridge, the housing, taking the committee away. Obviously, I chair that. So when I reflect now, well, one of the reasons why people may be wondering why it's disappearing, but when I look at bridge housing and I look at the work that Habitat for Humanity are doing in our district, I guess the urgency is now not there. So as a way of an explanation, I feel like we have done a lot of great work in that space, and now it can be, it doesn't necessarily need to be an item or a committee on its own. So just my couple of those points.
Thanks, Liz. Did you want to do a little bit of a wrap up, Steph? Some of the issues that were raised there?
First of all, I want to agree with Liz. I think the discussion and debate's really a really important one. This is trialling something new after a lot of discussion and some good research. So thank you for your open discussion and debate. And I hope that we've been able to settle on some of the issues of concern. I'm looking forward to trialling this and seeing how we can look for the benefits of this continuous improvement and across the business and addressing both the issues that you've all raised and, of course, the issues that the staff are raising in a number of spaces as well. So looking forward to that. I will take the mea culpa for not making sure that we had communicated before Christmas that this was our intention. Of course, we had to come and do a formal meeting today. And no decision was made until this decision was made, and it wasn't a previous meeting before Christmas that we laid this out. I think it was a workshop, but so it would have been really helpful for us to signal to some of our partners that this is what we were thinking. And so mea culpa, I missed that as well. I have a slight point of difference in that I don't think it should have been part of our consideration, but it should have certainly been something we communicated. To Councillor Mike's point, under the Local Government Act, we're tasked with who we are, what we do, and how we should go about it. And I think that this organisation is really up for innovation and continuous improvement. Georgie's group as a business excellence group is unheard of pretty much in, across most councils. It's an indication that this council has been adaptive and innovative. So this is just a further way of looking about how we could do our business better. And I'm sure, so firstly, I acknowledge that the media are absolutely critical for a whole range of reasons. And I agree with you, Andrew, that, the Fourth Estate's critical in democracy. And we know that the great work they do, but also our context for both of us is changing. As Liz has said, our meetings are online. They have an online portal. They could pick up and put stuff online straight away. I appreciate that a large percentage of our population is still enjoying the print media. Luckily, local government works pretty slowly and nothing much happens overnight. So pretty much our decisions that we might make on a Wednesday are not going to be enacted by the next Tuesday. People might like to hear about it sooner, but the impact of decisions are much slower than that. But I'm more than willing to meet with any of the media to discuss how we might work closely with them and make this work. And as we're piloting this change, very happy to do that. And suspect that most of the Chamber of Commerce's businesses that are members are constantly looking for continuous improvement in their own businesses and understand the complexity of that as well. So we'll appreciate what we're trying to do in our business here as well. So that's my mea culpa. I guess I'm happy to work with media, but also think about the new ways and new contexts of which information is being disseminated, which has been raised by several of you. So we're really looking forward to putting this place. Thank you for your support of this program of it's a bit of a pilot. Look forward to the review in June. I think we'll have done 2 cycles by then. And we'll be able to have a look at it and see what's working and not working and what's come up. So just on behalf of the staff, I want to say thank you for allowing us to put this up to you and have the discussion.
May I make a request, Madam Chair?
Yes, Roger.
Can each of the items of the recommendation be placed individually? As you've obviously told, there are a couple of the items that I would vote against, but I don't want to vote against the whole thing because I agree with some of them. So for my comfort, it would help if they were presented individually.
Marcus, did you have something you want to add?
Well, I'd just like to move the entire recommendation.
Oh, sorry,
As
no,
you said.
I'll have to, sorry, I'll have to deal with Roger's request. Can I just take a moment on that one? Just want to Well, presumably, so where do we stand in terms of standing? orders?
Yeah.
That is just, this is what I'm trying to get some clarity on. Just, do I have that discretion? Who has it?
To do it as part. Yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this with me is a discretion.
Yes, yes, I believe it is. Yeah, yeah, yes, it is chair's discretion. Yeah.
Yeah, Diana's just.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we've done that multiple times.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
Marcus is a revised resolution anyway, so it's got to go up on the board.
Can we just, to the governance group, just pause the meeting, please, Zoe? Just while people
We'll
take a
just
break?
pause the meeting just to get some advice around standing orders.
Yeah, no, it's good. That's.
Sorry, Ken.
Yep.
Right, welcome back. So here we are with some amended recommendations flowing on from our robust discussion around this item. So we shall you see there on the screen, and we will put each of these paragraphs separately. We thought originally we could have potentially grouped a bunch that were not particularly controversial, that there was no opposition to, but then we thought it just got too hard. So we'll just do them one at a time for the sake of ease, I guess, and clarity. So the first recommendation is unchanged. We've got 2 A's there, which is curious use of the alphabet. And they'll probably all change now, won't they, if it's about alphabetised? So
they're just showing in green those changes there.
Okay.
Changes, though?
Just 2 changes.
Excellent. So paragraph, is it F? Yes, F, in respect of the, oh, crikey.
Sorry.
So can we just confirm what we're going to do is highlight where the changes are,
Yep.
and then we're going to go back to the start and go one by one. So we're just going to highlight to you the 2 changes that are now at the bottom, towards the bottom of the recommendations, and they're in green.
So they relate to the delegation, which we discussed in respect to the exercising of that delegation. So the change relates in the condition of that delegation at the request of Councillor Clare for there to be a change in the wording there. So that bullet point in respect of one of the conditions now reads, the delegation may only be exercised in relation to urgent matters arising between the relevant committee's normal scheduled meetings. But a good clarification there. It was a little less refined before. And then the extra addition here as after that, that paragraph is paragraph H, which seeks the direction of staff to report back to Council in June 2025 on the effectiveness of all of the recommendations. So noting, of course, that the report referenced August review, but we've agreed to embed into the recommendation review and bring that forward per Councillor Pettit's request. So what we will do, we're comfortable, those are the 2 changes, so we'll squizzle back to the top. And so now we have recommendations A to H, and we will deal with each one separately at Councillor Gordon's request. So I will move that we receive Joe's report, which has been presented today. Do I have a seconder for that? Bruce? Bruce seconds that. All in favour say aye. Against? Carried. The second paragraph B, purports to the adoption of the Waipa District Council schedule of meetings as set out in Appendix 1 of the report. I'm comfortable to move that paragraph, and I will be seeking a seconder. Claire will second that for me. I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against?
Yes.
Roger, against? Yep. Did you want to be recorded?
I do, and specifically with the day of the meeting. I'm not worried about the cadence.
All we can do is record that you're against.
I'm against that motion.
Philip, are you against as well? And if so, did you want to be recorded?
Sorry, just clarify, is that just A?
B.
Of B.
A should be B. The second A is a B.
Yeah. Sorry, we're having a bit of trouble with formatting.
It's glitching.
Just
Sorry, yeah, that's, just want to quick.
Yeah, if you revert back to your agenda before you, The numbers are exactly the same. It's just that there's an additional paragraph at the back bottom.
Yeah.
With, subject to the two changes that appear in that delegation.
I've got is with H, if we change it in June, would it be going through to September?
No.
So
No, because it's a calendar.
So the meeting schedule is from March to September because we have to project that further out. But if it happened in June, if through the review you want to do something different, we can always change it then. Philip, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm against the
B
side and I'm against.
And would you like to be recorded? Okay, to record it against. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Oh, I've done that, haven't I? You've expressed your against. Fantastic. Moving on then to C. Delegates pursuant to local government legislation separately to both the Chief Executive and the Deputy Chief Executive the authority to alter oh, sorry, my eyes are going funny. Alter, including adding to, removing or rescheduling the schedule of ordinary meetings as specified in the schedule of meetings adopted under recommendation B in consultation with the relevant chair as required. This is a standing one we've always had. So Claire is going to move that. Lou will second that. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Paragraph D, pursuant again to legislation, discharge the Housing Subcommittee, which we have discussed. I'll move that from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Philip will second that. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. The next paragraph is E, pursuant to those clauses of the Local Government Act, appoints the Road Closure Subcommittee, membership set out there, the purpose and obviously and the delegations, as you can see, is all unchanged in that recommendation. Do I have somebody? Bruce, you're going to move that? Andrew, you can second that. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. On to paragraph F. Now, this is the one subject to the two green changes behind me, courtesy of, or one green change, courtesy of Claire's observations. This relates to the delegation to the mayor and chairs to commit to financial transactions subject to those conditions of delegation. Yep, I'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, who's going to second that? Move that for me. You're going to move that, Liz?
I just wanted to make a note because Ken said it out loud before that it's not the mayor and the deputy mayor, it's the mayor and the chairs. Because before you incorrectly said the mayor, the deputy mayor and the chairs. So just, it's not the deputy unless the mayor is unavailable. Just because it was out there in the open forum, I want to be really clear about that. I'm fine with the recommendation, just.
Cool, yeah. Thanks for that clarification, Liz. Dale Marie is comfortable moving that. Do I have a seconder? No, she just said she was comfortable with it. You'll second it, Andrew? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Roger's against. Did you want to be recorded? Well, just against. Okay, great. Motion carried. Then moving on to the next paragraph, which is G, agrees for the delegations registers to be updated accordingly. That's as a result of the previous delegation we've just agreed to. So I'm comfortable moving that from the chair. Can I have somebody second that for me? Claire will second that. I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. And then the final paragraph relating to the review of the effectiveness of all of these recommendations to take place in June of this year, so we can check in and see how we're going. I'm comfortable moving that from the chair. Lou will second that for me. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, team.
Yeah, look, I think it's exciting that we have an appetite for continuous business improvement in this organisation. And to your point, Steph, not a lot of local government is known for that. So I think it's really brave. So thank you.
Just one thing, I didn't want to put it in policy or into the vote, but I do think that all of us as councillors should be made aware when this delegation is being operated, so you can send out communication that it is going to happen. Now, the idea for that is to relate it to the fact one or two of the councillors might have just a little bit more knowledge. And I think being in the loop is absolutely vital as councillors.
Yep.
So we're just made aware of it prior to it actually taking place. I think that's important.
Yeah, good point to add, Lou. Thank you for that. Right.
Sorry, excuse me now.
Right. Moving on then to our next item on our agenda, which is the council submission on the the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill. We have obviously presenting this Kirsty and I believe Steph, but we also have Tiffany in the house with us to support. Kia ora, lovely to see you, Tiffany. Hope you had a wonderful holiday. I'll leave it for you then, the two of you to present your paper.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I would just like to acknowledge that Tepani is here providing support today. He is providing support on a short-term basis to council in his role as Kai Whakahaere Māori, the Manager of Strategic Māori Partnerships. So just want to acknowledge him. He's well familiar to you, having provided great support to us through the development of Ahuaki Waipa Community Spatial Plan, and he is here as a friend of Waipa District Council. So the report presents Council's submission on the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill that was prepared under delegated authority and lodged on the 23rd of December ahead of the close of submissions on the 7th of January. The delegation that is in place requires a reporting back to Council at the next practicable meeting following the making of the submission. So this is our first opportunity to be able to provide this to you. I'd just like to highlight that Council's submission was prepared by staff and supported by Tepani, with also consultation with Mayor Susan and Councillor Dale Marie as part of that process. The submission was also informed by submissions that have been lodged with LGNZ, Te Maruata, the network of Māori elected members working in local government, Waikato District Council and Otahonga District Council. I'm sure you're well familiar with the purpose of the bill. The overarching objective of the bill is to define what the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi are in legislation. And in our submission, we have opposed in entirety the bill. We are committed to and highly value our relationships with mana whenua and iwi, current and future. They are decades long. They are underpinned and founded upon Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and they are critical to ensuring that we are able to deliver positive outcomes for all of our Waipa communities. So in our submission, we expressed concern that the bill and the process that have been undertaken are harmful to mana whenua, to iwi and to council and our communities, with potential impacts on the cohesion of our communities, the relationships that we have with mana whenua and iwi, and also our ability to effectively execute our functions and duties. So we advised the Justice Select Committee that we wish to be heard in support of our submission, and I'm sure you are well aware that more than 300,000 submissions were received on the bill. And some submitters are being given an opportunity to present oral submissions to the Justice Select Committee, whether that's in person or by Zoom, but unfortunately not everyone will be afforded that opportunity. So the committee met for its first hearing on Monday of this week, and those oral submissions are continuing. That's as much as I'd like to say on the report. I'm assuming that you've all read it, and we, the collective we, Tepani, Steph and myself are available to respond to any questions that you may have. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Kirsty. Thank you for your report and for the time and effort that has been put into the submission. I know we haven't had the call up
No, not in the group.
But look, I shall open the floor for questions, noting that this is to receive the submission, which has, as pointed out by Kirsty, already been made available. Marie.
Ai, ka nui te mihi kia koutou. Tipene, Kirsty, Susan, Steph. I tuhi i a koutou i te tautoko o ngā iwi Māori a Waipa. E mihi nui kia koutou. It would be remiss of me not to acknowledge you as my peers and how much I value you all for the wonderful submission that went in. I've had lots of feedback from different members of my community who would like me to express how grateful we are to see that the Kaini Hira does appreciate their relationships and that you did express looking after our communities in that submission. So e hoa Ngāti Koroki Kahukura, he mihi nui kia koe te rangatira mō tō whakaro, tō aroha, i tō manaki i a mātou, i o mātou hāpuri mō tēnei kaupapa, mō tēnei wā, i raro i tēnei kāwanatanga. Nei rā te mihi kia koe e hoa. Tēnā tātou.
Kia ora, Dale. Thank you. Any other questions of these good people in respect of this item? Yeah. Mike Pettit.
Thank you through the chair. Tēnā kōrua. Yeah, fully support this. And, you know, I think by doing this, I pick up on some key words in this. You know, under clause 9 here, you know, negatively impacts on the current partnership if this thing goes ahead. And that's not just a partnership in Waipa, but that's the partnership throughout Aotearoa New Zealand. Yeah, I just don't see any positives in this. So I really do like this submission that has gone forward. I'm really pleased that we've offered to do an oral submission because they are far more powerful. But unfortunately, with 300,000 submissions, I understand why. I don't know how it was selected, but we haven't been selected. So, look, hey, on behalf of all of us, we do really appreciate our relationship with Mana Whenua. With council, it's ongoing. You know, to go forward, you've got to look backwards. And I think we've all done that. Yeah, and I think this thing will hopefully die its death naturally. But in the meantime, it is not causing any great good for New Zealand or New Zealanders. So thank you for the work that's gone in. And it was a tight time frame, so I really appreciate that too. And good to see it here as part of our formal documents today. Kia ora.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions or observations, comments that people wish to make?
Just
Andrew?
say here to that.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I guess when I opened the meeting saying that we needed to stay our course, this was sort of referencing this in some part. I think I feel like we're entering, into uncharted territory that none of us really want to be in. Certainly in Waipa, we've invested a lot of time and energy and araha into doing better and learning from each other. And I feel like pieces of legislation like this run counter to that. And I think that does not show progress. And that's what we want in our communities, no matter where you're from. So look, I will leave that there. I will just check if there's nobody else needing to say anything. I'm happy to remove receipt of that on the basis that there's nothing further to be said. I shall move from the chair. Dale Marie would like to second that. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
Councillors, just while our mayor takes a minute, I'm just giving my apologies for the remainder of the meeting. I have a medical appointment, which we all know are like gold. at the moment, and I need to depart to go and attend that. So wish you well for the rest of the meeting, and thank you for the really constructive conversations and the meeting that it's been, and looking forward to this year and working with you all. So kia ora.
Okay, then we're moving on to the next item, second to last item on our agenda, which is the RMA delegations. Diana, I believe this is yours. Welcome back to the table.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Good morning again. This report just seeks approval for a minor amendment for delegations relating to RMA functions. Under the RMA, people can make objections to council around certain decisions. They have 15 working days since the decision to make the objection, although extensions can be granted by council. And we identified that power to grant an extension hadn't been delegated to relevant staff, even though the staff could consider the objection themselves. So this report just seeks to enable staff to exercise this extension of time function. Very happy to take any questions.
Cool, you're fine. Cool. Lou and then Claire.
Yeah, okay. I'm very supportive of this. I think I can actually see this because actually being a commissioner along with Claire out next to me. The technical problems that we're facing today in the modern society, a lot of the decisions we're doing are quite complex in their own right. So allow the objectors to have that external time. And really, we're only tidying up something here. We can do it under 37, but 37C doesn't do it as I see it. So yeah, I'm in support of and would move the motion.
Okay, and Claire will second that. Roger, before I put the motion, did you have a question?
Just a point of clarification. I can understand the inclusion of a commissioner, but in some cases, that's commissioners. Should that have commissioner bracket S, where, to show that it could be more than one commissioner?
Very good question. So this delegation would be read with somewhere else in the delegations register, which talks about the power to appoint commissioners, one or more commissioners, and so to exercise the relevant functions that commissioners may exercise. So this delegation is supplemented with the delegation which talks about appointing commissioners to consider certain issues.
So it's a separate one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Cool, great. So I have Lou moving, Claire seconding. There being no further discussion, I should put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Diana. And then our last item is in public excluded. So we have a resolution there appearing on page 2943 of our agenda, setting out the grounds for public exclusion. Obviously, it's just in respect of our minutes from a previous meeting. So Mike will, Peter will move, Andrew will